On May 14th, 2024, my daughter-in-law Jolene dropped me off at Raleigh-Durham International Airport with $50 cash and my dead husband's battered suitcase. She turned to my son Philip, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone, the man I'd put through NC State with money from my bookkeeping business, and said loud enough for me to hear, "That's done. Let's get lunch at Capitol Grill." I stood there in the departures lane watching their rented BMW pull away. Jolene threw her head back, laughing. Philip laughed too. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I didn't chase after them or call out for help. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened my voice memo app, and scrolled past 127 recordings. 3 years of evidence, 11 months of meticulous planning. Every cruel word, every forged signature, every stolen dollar, all documented with the precision of a woman who'd spent 43 years making numbers tell the truth. Then I called my attorney, Rebecca Walsh. "It's time," I said. Rebecca's voice came through calm and steady. "Are you sure, Myra?" I glanced down at the manila envelope in my purse. Inside, bank statements showing $143,000 in fraudulent charges, property deeds bearing forged signatures, medical evaluations proving my complete mental competency, and evidence of something they didn't know I'd discovered, something that would change everything. "I'm sure." "I'll make the calls. Where are you?" "The airport, where they abandoned me." A pause, then they actually went through with it. "They did. Rebecca, do you know what they were planning? They had an intake appointment at Shady Pines Memory Care for 2 p.m. today. They were going to have me declared incompetent and committed. Right now." I heard her sharp intake of breath. "That's attempted false imprisonment, Myra. Are you safe?" "I'm fine. I knew they'd try something like this. That's why I played along with their surprise trip. That's why I recorded everything." "You set them up." "I protected myself. There's a difference. The police will be there in 10 minutes. I've already briefed them on what to expect." My name is Myra Cox. I'm 67 years old. I'm a retired accountant and bookkeeper from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm a widow. And what happened at that airport wasn't the end of my story. It was the final move in a chess game I'd been playing for 33 months. A game where my son and his wife thought they were stealing my life, when really, I was documenting theirs. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end, because this is the story of how a retired accountant turned the tables on 2 amateur thieves who made one critical mistake. They underestimated a woman who'd spent her entire career making other people's numbers add up. And in my world, the numbers always tell the truth. But let me start at the beginning. The day my husband David died, the world lost its color. We'd been married 42 years. High school sweethearts from Lumberton. He proposed on my 19th birthday with a ring he'd saved for by working double shifts at the lumber mill. We built our life together brick by brick. Nothing fancy, nothing extravagant. Just honest work and honest love. David taught history at Terry Sanford High School for 38 years. I taught math there too until 1996, when I left to start my own bookkeeping business. Small clients mostly, local restaurants, a few property management companies, Henderson's Auto Repair. By the time I retired in 2018, I'd built a solid reputation. People trusted me with their numbers. Our house at 847 Oakwood Drive was worth $310,000, according to the 2021 county assessment. We'd bought it back in 1989 for $68,000 and paid it off completely in 2004. No mortgage, no liens, no debt. Everything David and I had worked for was ours, free and clear. We had $85,000 in our joint savings account at First Citizens Bank. Not wealthy by any means, but comfortable. Enough for David's dream of finally visiting all those Civil War battlefields he'd taught about for nearly 4 decades. He never got that trip. Heart attack. Sudden and massive. He was in his study grading papers when it happened. I found him slumped over a student's essay about Gettysburg, his red pen still clutched in his hand. He was 63 years old. I became a widow at 64. Philip flew in from Charlotte that same night. He'd moved there after college, built a career in medical equipment sales, X-ray machines, MRI systems, hospital supplies. Decent money, or so I'd thought. He'd married Jolene Patterson 3 years earlier. I'd only met her 4 times before their wedding. Christmas, Easter, and 2 family dinners where she spent most of the time scrolling through her phone. She'd been a pharmaceutical sales rep, Philip told me proudly. Top performer at Pfizer, made 6 figures. But she'd quit after the wedding. "We want to start a family," he'd explained. "Joe wants to focus on being ready for that." 3 years later, there was no family. Just Jolene with her Cartier watch and Louis Vuitton handbag and weekly salon appointments that Philip somehow afforded on a medical equipment salesman's salary. At David's funeral, Jolene wore a black Chanel dress and oversized sunglasses. She hugged me exactly once. A brief, perfunctory embrace that smelled of expensive perfume and felt about as warm as a business handshake. Her touch was cold. Philip cried real tears. My boy had loved his father despite everything. Despite the divorce when Philip was 7, the years of child support battles, the missed weekends. David had come back into our lives when Philip was 15, apologizing, asking for another chance. Somehow we'd made it work. We rebuilt. We became a family again. Now David was gone, and I was alone in that big house with all his books, all his lesson plans, all the dreams we'd never finished together. Grief hit me like a physical force. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Some days I forgot to eat. The house felt too empty, too quiet, too full of memories that hurt to touch. Dr. Sharon Bennett at Cumberland County Mental Health prescribed sertraline, 50 milligrams daily for depression. I started attending a widow's support group at First Baptist Church. I cried with strangers who understood. Everything felt foggy, underwater, not quite real. 3 weeks after the funeral, Philip sat me down at my own kitchen table. "Mom, you can't stay here alone. Come live with us in Charlotte. Just temporarily, just until you get back on your feet." I looked around my kitchen, the room where David and I had shared thousands of meals, where we'd done our taxes every April, where he'd kissed me goodbye on the morning he died. "I don't know, Philip. This is my home." "I know it is. But Mom, you're grieving. You need family around you. Let us take care of you for a while." Jolene stood in the doorway, perfectly manicured hands folded in front of her. "We'd love to have you, Myra. We have plenty of space." I was too numb to see the calculation in her eyes. "Just for a few months," Philip pressed. "Please, Mom. I can't stand thinking of you here alone." So I said yes. I thought I was being practical. I thought my son was being kind. The first mistake I made was signing that power of attorney. Limited scope, Philip assured me. Just for bill paying, just for convenience, just to handle the complicated paperwork while I grieved. The document came from some online legal service, not a real attorney. But I was too tired to read the fine print, too sad to care about details. That was my first mistake. My second was not noticing when Jolene immediately started redecorating my bedroom in their house. New curtains and pastels I'd never choose. New bedding with flowers I'd never pick. New picture frames with stock photos of beaches I'd never visited. "To make you feel at home, Mom," she said with that bright, perfect smile. What she meant was, "This isn't really your room. This is our house, and you're a guest." But I was drowning in grief, and I missed all the warning signs. The disrespect started so small I almost didn't notice. At first, we ate dinner together every night. Philip, Jolene, and me at their dining room table. The same cherry wood table I'd given them as a wedding present. $2,400 I'd saved from my bookkeeping business because I wanted my son to have something nice. But by mid-October, things shifted. "Philip and I really need some couple time, Mom," Jolene said one evening as I set the table for 3. "You understand, don't you?" So I started eating in the kitchen while they ate in the dining room, just on the other side of the wall, close enough to hear their conversation and laughter, far enough to feel excluded. Then it became, "Oh, we already served ourselves, Mom. There's plenty left in the pots for you." I'd walk into the kitchen to find the good china, my Lenox china, the set David bought me for our 20th anniversary, piled in the sink, waiting for me to wash. Meanwhile, Jolene handed me a paper plate from Costco. "Less dishes this way," she said brightly. By Thanksgiving, I was eating alone in the kitchen every single night, serving myself lukewarm leftovers from pots on the stove using disposable plates like I was at a company picnic instead of in my own son's home. Around the same time, my bank statements stopped arriving in the mail. "We went paperless, Mom," Philip explained when I asked. "Better for the environment. Everything goes to my email now." "Can I see them?" "Of course, whenever you want." But whenever I asked, he was busy. Always busy. Then my bookkeeping clients started getting redirected. Small businesses I'd worked with for years, Henderson's Auto Repair, Mama Jean's Catering, 3 property management companies I'd handled since the early 2000s. They all started calling Philip instead of me. "You're retired now, Mom," he'd say whenever I brought it up. "You earned your rest. Enjoy it." I lost $3,000 a month in income. Money I'd counted on. Money that was mine. But the breaking point came at Christmas. December 23rd, 2021. Jolene's mother, Patricia Patterson, came to visit from Wilmington. Elegant woman, 72, former real estate broker. She arrived in a pristine Lexus wearing a cashmere coat that probably cost more than my monthly pension. I'd cooked the entire Christmas dinner. Honey-glazed ham with cloves, sweet potato casserole with brown sugar and pecans, green bean almondine the way David had loved it, homemade buttermilk biscuits. My hands remembered these recipes even when my heart was broken. The table looked beautiful, my Lenox china gleaming under the chandelier. Good silver I'd polished that morning. Cloth napkins pressed with crisp creases. Philip and Jolene sat down first. Patricia settled into the chair next to Jolene. I stood there holding pot holders, waiting for someone to ask me to join them. Jolene glanced up. "Mom, aren't you eating with us?" "I thought I would." "Yes." "Oh." She exchanged a look with Philip. "Well, we're kind of in the middle of a family conversation. Adult stuff, you know. Maybe you'd be more comfortable in the kitchen. You can watch your programs in there." Patricia Patterson's face. I'll never forget her expression. Pure pity mixed with discomfort. "Myra, surely you're joining us for Christmas dinner," Patricia said carefully. "Mom prefers eating in the kitchen," Jolene said smoothly, like it was an established fact. "Don't you, Mom? She finds it cozier." I looked at my son, my Philip, the boy I'd rocked to sleep when he had nightmares, the teenager I'd driven to baseball practice in my beat-up Corolla, the young man I'd helped move into his first apartment. He was staring at his plate, jaw tight, saying nothing. "Sure," I heard myself say. "I'll eat in the kitchen." I carried my paper plate into the other room and sat on a stool by the counter, listening to them laugh and talk through the doorway. Listening to them enjoy the meal I'd spent hours preparing, using the dishes I'd lovingly collected over decades, in the dining room where I wasn't welcome. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I got up and pulled out the one thing I'd brought from my old life that Jolene couldn't redecorate, my briefcase. Brown leather, worn at the corners, a gift from David when I started my business back in 1996. Inside was a yellow legal pad, blank and waiting. I clicked open a pen and wrote across the top in capital letters, "Evidence." Then I started documenting everything. Every incident, every insult, every dollar amount I could remember. Christmas dinner, paper plate while they used Lenox china, value $2,400 for full set. Bank statements, redirected to Philip's email starting November 3rd, lost income, bookkeeping clients, approximately $3,000 per month starting November car keys, disappeared January 10th, told I'm unsafe to drive. I wrote for 3 hours, my hand cramping, filling page after page. When dawn broke through my window, I had 17 pages of documentation. I hid the legal pad in a false bottom compartment of my briefcase, a feature I'd installed years ago for protecting clients' confidential tax documents. I was 64 years old. I was grieving my husband of 42 years. I was exhausted and heartbroken. But I wasn't stupid, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let my son and his wife steal my life without documenting every single moment. Philip cornered me in the kitchen while I was taking my morning medication. I had a daily pill organizer, blue plastic with compartments for each day of the week, something David had bought me years ago when I was taking antibiotics. "Mom, we need to talk about your expensive tastes." I looked up from swallowing my sertraline. "My what?" "Your spending. It's gotten out of control." I set down my glass of water slowly. I hadn't bought anything except groceries in months. I didn't even have a car anymore. They'd taken my 2008 Honda Accord in January, claiming it was unsafe. The keys had simply disappeared one morning, and when I'd asked about them, Jolene had said, "Mom, you almost hit a mailbox last week. We're worried about you." I'd never hit any mailbox. "What spending?" I asked carefully. "The credit cards, Mom, the online shopping." He pulled out his phone, showed me a statement. "You charged over $4,000 at Nordstrom last month alone." I looked at the screen. Women's designer clothing in sizes I'd never worn, shoes I'd never ordered, a Michael Kors handbag for $1,200, a Tiffany bracelet for $2,300. Nothing I would ever buy. Nothing I'd even want. Philip, this isn't me. Mom, he gave me that look, that patient, pitying look you give someone who's lost their grip on reality. I know the grief is making you confused. I'm not confused. I didn't make these purchases. The charges are on your card, your name, your account. Then someone else is using my account. Who would do that? Mom, please, I'm trying to help you. But I could see it in his eyes. He didn't believe me. Or worse, he didn't want to believe me. That afternoon, I waited until they were both out. Jolene at the gym, Philip at a sales meeting. I went into his home office. I'd been cleaning that office twice a week since I'd moved in, so I knew where everything was. His desk drawer wasn't locked. Inside were bank statements he'd printed out, presumably to review before shredding. He was a creature of organized chaos, my son. Always had been. I found statements for the past 6 months. My hands started shaking as I read through them. Monthly charges to my account, between $2,400 and $4,800, every single month. Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Best Buy, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, the Angus Barn, Capitol Grill, and there, listed in the recurring charges, BMW Financial Services, $890 per month. The sleek black BMW 5 Series sitting in their garage, the car Jolene drove like it was her birthright, was being paid for with my money. I kept searching, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. At the bottom of the filing cabinet, tucked under old tax returns, I found something that made my blood run cold. A mortgage statement. For my house. My house at 847 Oakwood Drive. The house David and I had paid off completely in 2004. Current balance, $124,780. Monthly payment, $2,197. 00 date of origination, September 15th, 2021. 1 month after I'd moved in with them. 1 month after David died. My signature was on the documents, except it wasn't my signature. Close, yes. A good forgery, but wrong. The slant was off by maybe 15 degrees. The loop on the M in Myra was too rounded, too hesitant. I'd signed my name on tax returns, business contracts, and legal documents for decades. I knew my signature the way I knew my own face in the mirror. This was fraud. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and photographed everything. Every bank statement, every forged document, every fraudulent charge. I took 63 photos, my hands shaking so badly I had to brace my elbows against the desk to keep the images from blurring. They'd stolen $124,000 through a fraudulent mortgage on my house. They'd spent tens of thousands more on their lifestyle, the BMW, the designer clothes, the expensive restaurant meals. And they were using my grief, my medication, my depression as a cover story to make everyone think I was incompetent. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront them the moment they walked through the door. I wanted to call the police right then. But I didn't, because I remembered something David used to tell me when I'd get frustrated with difficult clients. Numbers don't lie, Myra, but people do. Get all the proof first, then act. I'd spent 43 years making other people's numbers tell the truth. I knew how to build a case. I knew how to document fraud methodically and completely. I put everything back exactly where I'd found it, making sure nothing looked disturbed. Then I went to my room, opened my briefcase, and added 17 new pages to my evidence log. Every transaction, every date, every dollar amount. That night I called my old friend Barbara Reeves. We'd taught together at Terry Sanford High before I started my business. She'd retired from nursing 5 years ago, and her husband had died of cancer around the same time David had his heart attack. We'd reconnected at the Widows Support Group. Barbara, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Of course, honey. What's wrong? You sound shaken. Do I seem confused to you? Like my memory is failing? A long pause. Myra Cox, what kind of question is that? Please, just answer it. You're one of the sharpest people I know. Last week at group, you calculated a 22% tip in your head faster than I could pull up my phone calculator. Why are you asking me this? I told her. Not everything. Not about the mortgage yet. But enough. The humiliation at meals, the redirected mail, the missing car keys, the credit card charges I didn't make. "Oh, honey," Barbara said quietly. "Oh, honey, no. Am I imagining this? Am I actually losing my mind and just can't see it?" "You're not losing anything. But Myra, you need to get out of there. You need help." "I need evidence first." "You need safety." "I need both." I took a shaky breath. "Barbara, can you do me a favor? Call me regularly. Check on me. If I really am losing my mind, I need someone to tell me the truth." "You're not losing your mind. They're gaslighting you, sweetheart. Classic elder abuse." That was the first time anyone had given me permission to trust my own perception, to believe what I was seeing with my own eyes. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened my laptop, the one I'd kept from my business, hidden in my suitcase because I didn't trust using their home Wi-Fi. I'd been going to the library to check email, too paranoid to leave a digital trail. I started researching North Carolina elder abuse statutes, financial exploitation penalties, forgery laws, power of attorney limitations. The numbers were stark. Maximum sentence for financial exploitation of an elderly person, 10 years in prison, forgery of signature on document over $5,000, Class H felony fraudulent use of power of attorney, separate criminal charge. I found the specific statute about powers of attorney in North Carolina. The document Philip had me sign gave him authority to pay routine bills and manage household expenses. It did not give him authority to take out mortgages in my name, make major purchases without my consent, access funds beyond basic living expenses, sign my name to any legal documents. Every single thing they'd done was illegal. Provably, documentably illegal. I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling in the dark. I was 64 years old. I was a widow still deep in grief. I was tired and sad, and sometimes I did forget things because grief does that to your brain. But I was also an accountant who'd built a business from nothing. I was a woman who'd raised a son alone for 8 years after his father left. I was a breast cancer survivor who'd beaten stage 2 disease in 2007 and come back stronger. I was not some fragile, incompetent old woman they could manipulate and rob, and I was about to prove it. I was heading downstairs to get a glass of water when I heard their voices drifting up from the living room. The TV was off. They were having one of their serious conversations. I should have kept walking, should have gone back to my room. But I didn't. I stopped on the landing, hidden from view, and listened. "If we get her declared incompetent, we get everything." Jolene's voice, cold and calculating as an accountant tallying numbers. "She's my mother, Joe." Philip sounded tired, conflicted. "She's a resource that's being wasted. Think about it rationally." "There's nothing rational about stealing from your own mother." "We're not stealing. We're managing assets she can't handle anymore. There's a difference." Silence. I held my breath. "What about the guilt?" Philip asked quietly. "What about waking up knowing what we've done?" Jolene actually laughed. The sound made my skin crawl. "What about the country club membership we can't afford? What about the fact that we're drowning in credit card debt while your mother sits on $300,000 in equity she doesn't even need? Philip, my mother lives in a 5,000 square foot house on Figure 8 Island. Meanwhile, we're stuck in this mediocre neighborhood because you can't close enough sales. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? Your mother worked as a bookkeeper." "A bookkeeper, Philip. Small-time clients, nothing special. She doesn't deserve that house more than we do. She and Dad worked for it their whole lives. And we work hard, too. We deserve nice things. Besides," her voice dropped, became almost soothing, "she's not going to last much longer anyway. She's what, 64? Depressed, on medication, clearly declining. The way I see it, we're just expediting the inevitable." The silence stretched out like a blade. "You're talking about my mother," Philip said, but his voice was weak. So weak. "I'm talking about our future. Do you want to sell medical equipment until you're 70? Do you want to drive a used Camry and shop at TJ Maxx forever? Or do you want the life we deserve?" More silence. Longer this time. Then, "What's your timeline?" And just like that, my son made his choice. I didn't scream, didn't storm down the stairs, didn't confront them with tears and accusations. I went back to my room very, very quietly, closed the door without a sound, and sat on the edge of my bed. I looked at David's photograph on my nightstand, the one from our 30th anniversary trip to Charleston. He was smiling at the camera, his arm around me, the harbor sunset golden behind us. "What do I do?" I whispered to his frozen smile. I could almost hear his voice. "Make them face the numbers, Mai. You always make them face the numbers." I opened my laptop and found the contact information for Rebecca Walsh, the attorney who'd managed my sister's estate when she passed away 2 years before David died. My sister Dorothy. Not Margaret. Dorothy Hayes, my only sibling, who'd left me everything in a carefully structured trust. $680,000, managed by Rebecca's firm, completely separate from any accounts Philip had access to. The monthly statements went to a P.O. box I'd maintained since my bookkeeping days, and the deposits were handled automatically. Philip and Jolene had no idea that money existed. I typed out an email at 11:43 p.m. "Dear Ms. Walsh, my name is Myra Cox. You handled my late sister Dorothy Hayes' estate and trust. I need legal help regarding financial elder abuse. I have documentation, I have recordings, and I have $680,000 they don't know about. How soon can we meet? Sincerely, Myra Cox." I hit send, then sat there in my bedroom with the pink floral curtains Jolene had chosen, in the house that wasn't mine, surrounded by people who were actively plotting to steal my life. Rebecca Walsh responded at 7:15 the next morning. "Mrs. Cox, I remember you well from Dorothy's service. I'm so sorry for what you're experiencing. I handle estate planning and elder law. This is exactly my area of expertise. Can you meet me at my office in Raleigh tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Bring everything you have. We're going to fix this. Rebecca Walsh, Esquire." I sat there staring at that email for a full 5 minutes. Then, for the first time in 8 months, I smiled, because I'd spent 43 years making numbers tell the truth. And Jolene Patterson Cox had just made her first and fatal mathematical error. She'd assumed I didn't know how to fight back. Rebecca Walsh's law office occupied a renovated Victorian house in downtown Raleigh, about an hour from Fayetteville. I'd told Philip and Jolene I was going to my widow's support group. They didn't question it. They never did. The confused old woman going to cry with other confused old women. Rebecca was 53, with steel gray hair cut in a precise bob and eyes that cataloged everything. 27 years of practicing estate law had taught her to spot deception. When she shook my hand, her grip was firm and warm. "Mrs. Cox, thank you for coming. Before we start, I need to ask, are you safe right now? Physically? Yes. Financially and emotionally, no. Good answer. That tells me you're thinking clearly." She gestured to a leather chair across from her desk. "Show me everything." I opened my briefcase, David's briefcase, and pulled out the yellow legal pad now filled with 43 pages of handwritten documentation. Then my phone with the 63 photographs of bank statements, mortgage documents, and forged signatures. Rebecca spent 40 minutes reading in complete silence. I watched her jaw tighten when she reached the forged mortgage papers. When she finally looked up, her expression was controlled fury. "Mrs. Cox, what you've documented here is textbook elder financial abuse under North Carolina General Statute 1432.3. This isn't just a civil matter. This is criminal. Can we prove it? With what you've already collected? Absolutely. But we need more." She pulled out her own legal pad. "First, you need a comprehensive cognitive evaluation. I'm referring you to Dr. Harold Patterson at Duke Neurology, no relation to your daughter-in-law," she added with the ghost of a smile. "He's the best in the state for elder cognitive assessments. Can you get there next week?" "Yes." "Second, we'll need complete records from your current psychiatrist. Dr. Sharon Bennett, correct?" I blinked. "How did you know?" "You mentioned sertraline in your notes. I looked up local prescribers." She made another note. "May I contact her on your behalf?" "Please." Third, and this is crucial, Rebecca opened her desk drawer and pulled out a small device about the size of a USB drive. North Carolina is a one-party consent state for recordings. If you're part of a conversation, you can legally record it without the other person's knowledge. This is voice-activated, 60 hours of storage, charges via USB. Keep it in your pocket. Record everything. I took the recorder. It was lighter than I expected, warm from her hand. Fourth, I'm bringing in a forensic accountant, Sarah Kim. She's the best I know at tracing financial fraud. She'll need access to all your accounts and as much information as you can gather about theirs. They control most of my accounts, but not Dorothy's trust. And Mrs. Cox, Rebecca leaned forward. I need to know the complete picture. Is there anything else they don't know about? Any other assets or resources? I hesitated, then decided. She was my attorney now. Everything was privileged. Dorothy's trust has $680,000. It's managed completely separately. Monthly statements go to a P.O. box they don't know I have. They think I'm living on David's pension and my small Social Security payments. Rebecca's expression didn't change, but I saw approval in her eyes. Good. Keep it that way. That money is your safety net and your war chest. She made more notes. Now what's your goal here? What does justice look like to you? I thought about paper plates and Christmas dinner, about forged signatures and stolen houses, about my son choosing his wife over his mother, over truth, over basic decency. I want them prosecuted. I want every dollar back. I want my house back. And I want everyone who watched them humiliate me to know the truth. Rebecca smiled then, a sharp, satisfied smile. Then we're going to get along just fine, Mrs. Cox. April 12th, 2022, Dr. Harold Patterson's office at Duke was all clean lines and soft lighting designed to put patients at ease. He was 71, a neurologist who'd spent 4 decades studying cognitive decline. His evaluation was thorough and exhausting. 3 hours of testing, mini mental state examination. He asked me questions, had me draw clocks and remember word lists and do serial subtractions. Score, 30 out of 30. Perfect. Montreal Cognitive Assessment. More questions, more tasks, more memory challenges. Score, 28 out of 30. Well above the threshold for cognitive impairment. Then, an MRI of my brain. Lying still in that machine while it hummed and clacked around me, I thought about Philip telling neighbors I had Alzheimer's. About Jolene filming my confused moments. Dr. Patterson's report came 3 days later. Myra Elizabeth Cox, age 64, presents with completely intact cognitive function across all domains tested. Memory, both short-term and long-term, is excellent. Executive function, attention span, language skills, and visual spatial abilities all fall within normal limits for age, and in several areas exceed expected norms. Patient is articulate, well-organized, and demonstrates exceptional insight and judgment. There is no evidence whatsoever of cognitive impairment, dementia, or diminished capacity. Conclusion: patient is fully competent to manage her own financial, medical, and legal affairs. I read that last sentence 5 times, my eyes blurring with tears. Fully competent to manage her own affairs. The exact opposite of what Jolene claimed. April 18th, 2022, Dr. Sharon Bennett's psychiatric evaluation was equally clear. I'd been seeing her monthly since David died, and she knew me well. Patient exhibits grief-related depression following death of spouse, well managed with medication, sertraline 50 milligrams daily. Depression is situational and appropriate given recent loss. No psychotic symptoms observed. No cognitive impairment detected. No signs of dementia, delirium, or impaired judgment. Patient demonstrates appropriate decision-making capacity and clear understanding of her financial and legal situation. She is mentally competent to make all decisions regarding her care and estate. 2 independent doctors, 2 unambiguous evaluations, both confirming what I already knew. I wasn't losing my mind. I was being systematically abused. Meanwhile, I'd started recording everything. The small recorder lived in my cardigan pocket. I wore that cardigan everywhere, even in warm weather. Philip commented on it once. "Aren't you hot, Mom?" But didn't push when I said I felt chilly. April 22nd, recording number 14. Jolene on speakerphone with a friend while I made coffee 10 feet away. Philip's mother is getting worse. Memory's completely gone. We're probably going to have to put her in memory care soon. It's heartbreaking, watching someone you love just fade away like that. I was standing right there. My memory was fine. I'd just balanced my checkbook that morning, or rather what was left of my checkbook that they hadn't drained. April 29th, recording number 23, Philip talking to our neighbor Ted Morrison while washing his BMW in the driveway. "Yeah, Mom's having a really hard time. The Alzheimer's is progressing faster than we expected. We're looking at facilities, trying to find somewhere she'll be comfortable." I watched from my bedroom window as Ted shook his head sympathetically. I'd never been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Dr. Patterson's MRI had proven my brain was healthy. May 3rd, recording number 31, Jolene filming me on her iPhone while I folded laundry. Myra, what day is it today? Can you tell me what day it is? It's Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. Are you sure? I think you might be confused. I'm sure it's Tuesday. Okay, if you say so. Later that day, she posted a video to her private Facebook group, Caring for Aging Parents. I saw it because Barbara Reeves was a member under her maiden name. The video showed only Jolene's question and my supposedly confused expression when she told me I was wrong. She'd edited out my correct answer. Her caption, "Another hard day. She doesn't even know what day it is anymore. Prayers appreciated." The comments flooded in with sympathy and advice about memory care facilities. Every lie, every manipulation, every performance of concerned family members caring for a declining parent, all captured in perfect digital clarity. May 10th, 2022, Sarah Kim called with her preliminary findings. I was at Barbara's house, safe from eavesdropping. "Mrs. Cox, I need to prepare you. It's significantly worse than you initially thought." My stomach dropped. "How much worse?" "Your son and daughter-in-law's personal finances are catastrophic. Credit card debt across 7 different cards. $89,412. A failed business venture. Jolene attempted to open a boutique in 2019 that lost $34,000. And this is particularly interesting. Jolene has substantial gambling debts. Online poker primarily. I can trace approximately $23,000 in losses." I sat down hard in Barbara's kitchen chair. "Gambling?" "High-stakes online poker. She's been playing since before she married your son. It explains the aggressive timeline. She's not just greedy, Mrs. Cox. She's desperate." "They're using my money to cover their debts." "Exactly. And here's the total theft I can verify through financial forensics. $143,867. The number hit me like a punch to the solar plexus. $143,000. That includes the fraudulent mortgage, the credit card charges in your name, the BMW lease, and various other expenses they've systematically charged to your accounts. Every transaction is documented. Every forged signature is verified. This will absolutely hold up in court. Sarah, can you stake your professional reputation on this report?" "I already am. This is ironclad, Mrs. Cox." I thanked her and ended the call, then sat staring at Barbara's kitchen wall. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd stolen $143,867. They'd forged my signature on mortgage documents. They'd lied to doctors, neighbors, friends. They'd posted videos online claiming I had dementia. And they'd done it all while I ate leftovers on paper plates in the kitchen. "You okay?" Barbara asked gently. "No, but I will be." That night, I added everything to my evidence log. The gambling debts, the failed business, the precise total of their theft. The numbers were complete now. The story they told was devastating. And I had one more thing to do. I'd spent 43 years as an accountant. I knew how to manage expectations, how to present exactly the image clients needed to see. So I started playing the part they'd written for me, but with the precision of someone documenting her own performance. It started small. "Jolene, what day is trash pickup?" I asked at breakfast. "Thursday, Mom, like it always is." "Oh, I could have sworn it was Wednesday." "You asked me the same thing yesterday." I hadn't asked yesterday, but I wrote in my journal that evening. Asked about trash day once on May 15th. Jolene claimed I asked on May 14th. Recording number 47 proves otherwise. I forgot my phone in the living room, left it there for 3 hours while I stayed in my room reading. When I came back, Jolene was scrolling through my photos. "Mom, you have so many duplicates on here. Your storage must be full. Let me clean this up for you." "Oh, would you? This technology confuses me so much." She deleted 60 photos over the next 20 minutes, looking satisfied. What she didn't know, I'd already backed up everything to cloud storage she didn't have access to, using a password she'd never guess, the date David and I got married. I was creating a paper trail of their deception while letting them think they were erasing evidence. June 2nd, 2022. Jolene escalated her documentation campaign. She started filming me constantly, narrating like she was making a documentary. "Mom, where did you put your glasses?" I'd look around, confused, while she filmed, before she'd point out they were on top of my head. What the video didn't show, I deliberately put them there 30 seconds before she walked in, specifically so she'd film it. "What time is dinner, Mom? Is it 5 o'clock? You asked me that 20 minutes ago. Don't you remember?" I'd asked once at 4:45, but she'd edited out the timestamp and posted it to her Facebook support group with the caption, "She asks the same question every 5 minutes now. This disease is cruel." Barbara screenshot everything from her undercover account and sent it to Rebecca. I was building a counter-narrative. Every video Jolene posted, I had the unedited version. Every confused moment she captured, I had recordings proving my clarity before and after. June 15th, 2022, they took me to tour Shady Pines Memory Care. The facility was exactly as depressing as I'd feared. Beige walls that absorbed all hope, fluorescent lights humming overhead. A common room where 4 elderly residents slumped in wheelchairs, staring blankly at The Price is Right, playing at maximum volume. The director, Linda Morrison, gave us the tour with professional cheerfulness that couldn't quite mask the underlying grimness. "We specialize in dementia and Alzheimer's care," she explained, leading us down a hallway that smelled of industrial cleaner and something else. Something sad and forgotten. 24-hour supervision, medication management, secured units for residents who wander. "That sounds perfect for Mom," Jolene said, her hand on my shoulder in a gesture that looked affectionate but felt like ownership. "She's been wandering at night. We're so worried about her safety." I'd never wandered anywhere. The only person who'd wandered was Jolene, wandering into my bank accounts. Linda showed us a room, 10 by 12 feet, single bed, small dresser, window overlooking the parking lot. This is what they wanted to reduce my life to. "The cost is $8,500 monthly," Linda said, opening a brochure. "We accept long-term care insurance, private pay, or we can assist with Medicaid applications once the patient's assets are spent down to the qualification threshold." "She has assets to cover it," Jolene said immediately. "The house, savings, various investments." Linda made notes on her iPad, nodding. "Excellent. We can start the intake process whenever you're ready." I played my part perfectly, looked around the depressing room with a vague smile. "This seems nice?" In my cardigan pocket, the recorder captured every word. Linda's pricing, Jolene's immediate claims about my assets, the casual discussion of spending down my life savings to pay for a locked facility I didn't need. On the drive home, I stared out the window while Philip and Jolene discussed logistics. "We should probably file the guardianship papers soon," Jolene said. "How soon?" "Next month? We need to move before she gets any worse." I wasn't getting worse. My cognitive tests proved that, but I let them believe I was deteriorating while I systematically documented their fraud. Philip came home from work carrying papers in a manila folder. His expression was uncomfortable. Guilty, almost. But Jolene was behind him, and her presence seemed to steel his resolve. "Mom, we need you to sign some paperwork. It's for your protection." I was in the living room, knitting. I'd taken up knitting in August, a hobby I'd never had before, but one that made me look harmless and domestic. The perfect image of a confused older woman engaged in simple, repetitive tasks. "What kind of paperwork?" I asked, not looking up from my needles. "Legal documents, estate planning stuff. Jolene's been helping me organize everything." I set down my knitting carefully and took the papers. Started reading slowly, even though my accountant's eye caught the critical phrases immediately. Petition for guardianship and conservatorship. The undersigned petitioners, Philip Cox and Jolene Patterson Cox, respectfully request this court appoint them as legal guardians and conservators for Myra Elizabeth Cox, age 64, who suffers from progressive dementia and is no longer capable of managing her own financial, medical, or personal affairs. The attached supporting evidence made my blood run cold. A statement supposedly from Dr. Sharon Bennett claiming I had severe cognitive decline and severely impaired judgment. Jolene's carefully edited videos. Philip's written testimony about my daily confusion and memory loss asterisk. A fabricated medical history claiming I'd been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in March 2022. Every single word was a lie. Dr. Bennett had never written that statement. I'd never been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My MRI proved my brain was healthy. The testimony was fiction. "Where do I sign?" I asked quietly. Philip pointed with a pen that shook slightly in his hand. Right here, Mom. And here. And initial here. I signed. But I signed it wrong. My normal signature was flowing and confident, with a distinctive loop on the M and a bold underline. Years of signing checks and contracts had made it automatic, consistent. This signature I made shaky, uncertain, smaller than my normal writing. The M barely formed. The Cox trailing off like I'd forgotten how to finish. Is that okay? I asked, looking up at them with manufactured uncertainty. That's perfect, Mom. Philip took the papers quickly, relief washing over his face. What he didn't know. That same morning I'd signed the real version in Rebecca's office, properly and confidently, with a notary present. I had a perfect, competent signature dated October 8th, 2022, at 9:15 a.m. And now I had an incompetent signature on their fraudulent guardianship petition, dated October 8th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m., proof that my supposed incompetence was actually strategic sabotage. After they left the room, I went upstairs and added notes to my evidence log. October 8th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. Signed guardianship papers with deliberately altered signature. Philip and Jolene accepted without question. They did not verify my capacity to sign. They did not read the document aloud to me. They did not ensure I understood what I was signing. This violates proper procedure for guardianship petitions and further demonstrates their fraudulent intent. October 15th, 2022, Sarah Kim's final forensic report arrived at Rebecca's office. 347 pages. Every transaction traced back to its source. Every forged signature analyzed and compared. Every lie documented with timestamps and dollar amounts. The evidence was overwhelming. Rebecca called me at Barbara's house. We can file criminal charges now. The district attorney is ready to move forward. Not yet, I said. Myra, the longer we wait, the more they could potentially steal. I need to try one more thing. Silence on the other end. Then, you want to give Philip a chance to come clean. He's still my son. And if he chooses her over you again, then I'll know. And I won't spend the rest of my life wondering if I gave up too soon. Rebecca sighed. You're a better person than I am, Mrs. Cox. No, I said quietly, watching through Barbara's window as children played in the street, normal and innocent. I'm just a mother. I waited for a Wednesday afternoon. Jolene's standing appointment at the nail salon was 2 p.m., and she was religious about it. She'd be gone for 90 minutes minimum. Philip was in his home office, reviewing sales reports on his laptop. I could see him through the half-open door, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. I knocked softly. Philip, can we talk? Just the two of us? He looked up, startled. Sure, Mom. Come in. What's on your mind? I closed the door behind me and sat in the chair across from his desk. Took a breath. I know about the second mortgage. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. For 10 long seconds, he just stared at me, his mouth opening and closing without sound. Mom, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how you forged my signature on documents for $124,780? My voice was calm, level. The voice I used to use with clients when reviewing their books and finding discrepancies. Because that's not a mistake, Philip. That's a felony. I never meant... He stopped, started again. Jolene said you'd agreed to it. She showed me papers she said you'd already discussed, and I thought, Philip, stop. I held up my hand. I never agreed to any mortgage. You know I didn't. You forged my signature. His hands were shaking now, gripping the edge of his desk. It got out of hand, I know that. I never meant for it to go this far. How much have you taken? Total. I'm asking you directly. He couldn't meet my eyes. Maybe 47,000? 52? I honestly lost track. Try 143,000, I thought. But I didn't correct him. I wanted to see how honest he'd actually be. And the guardianship papers? The ones claiming I have Alzheimer's? That was Jolene's idea. She said, he caught himself. She said it would protect you from making bad financial decisions. Do I seem confused right now, Philip? Do I seem like someone who can't manage my own affairs? He finally looked at me. Really looked at me. And for just a moment, a heartbeat, I saw the little boy I'd raised. The one who'd cried when he scraped his knee. The The one who'd hugged me so tight when he graduated college. No, he whispered. No, you don't. Then why are you doing this to me? Because, his voice cracked. Because Jolene said we deserved better. Because we're drowning in debt, and you have so much equity in that house. And you're just one person, and we could use it to build something better, and you believed her. I wanted to believe her. I wanted the life she promised. We sat in silence. The clock on his wall ticked. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a dog barked. Philip, I need you to understand something. What you've done isn't just wrong. It's not just hurtful. It's criminal. Elder financial abuse carries up to 10 years in prison. Forgery is a felony. If I wanted to, I could call the police right now and have you arrested. His face went even paler. Are you going to? That depends on you. On me? Tell me the truth. All of it. How much you took. How long you've been planning this. Everything. That's when we heard the garage door. Jolene was home early. I watched my son's face change. The brief flash of conscience disappeared, replaced by something that looked like fear. Not fear of consequences. Fear of his wife. Jolene walked into the office, her designer purse over one shoulder, fresh manicure gleaming. She took in the scene immediately. Me sitting across from Philip, the tension thick as fog. What's going on here? This was Philip's moment, his chance to choose truth over lies, his mother over his manipulative wife. I waited. Nothing, he said, not meeting my eyes. Mom's just confused again. The words hit me like a slap. Philip, I said quietly. Please. Mom, you need to take your medication. You're having one of your episodes. Jolene's smile was sharp as glass. Oh, Myra, did you forget your pills this morning? That explains why you're so agitated. I know exactly what medication I've taken. Do you? Because this is the third time this week you've made these wild accusations about us stealing from you. That's a lie, and you know it. Is it? Jolene pulled out her phone. Philip, didn't she say the same thing on Monday? She did, my son confirmed, the lie coming easier now. I looked at Philip one last time. Really looked at him. Gave him one final chance to choose differently. I gave you an opportunity, Philip, to do the right thing, to choose your mother over your debts, to choose truth over convenience. Mom, you're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense, and you know it. I stood up. You had a choice. You made it. I walked out of the office. Behind me, I heard Jolene hiss. What did you tell her? Nothing, I swear. She knows something, Philip. We need to file those guardianship papers this week, before she does something stupid. My hand was in my cardigan pocket, fingers resting on the small recorder. It had captured everything. Philip's admission of theft, Jolene's reference to filing guardianship papers. Most importantly, my complete coherence, my direct questions, my clear understanding of their fraud. That night I called Rebecca from Barbara's bathroom with the shower running to mask my voice. I gave him a chance. He chose her. I'm sorry, Myra. Don't be. I needed to know. I took a shaky breath. File everything. Criminal charges, civil lawsuit, all of it. Are you absolutely certain? I'm certain. But Rebecca, I don't want to just win in court. I want it public. I want everyone who watched them humiliate me, everyone who believed their lies about my competence. I want them all to see the truth. That's risky. Public exposure can backfire. I've spent 11 months building this case. I have 127 recordings. I have medical evaluations from 2 independent doctors. I have a forensic accounting report that proves $143,000 in fraud. I have everything I need. What exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing we make this hurt. Really hurt. In a way they can never escape. I'm listening. The Fayetteville Annual Senior Resource Fair, May 20th. 500 attendees, local media coverage, workshops on financial planning and elder care. You want to expose them publicly? I want to give a presentation on how to recognize and prevent elder financial abuse, using my own case as the primary example, with Philip and Jolene in the audience. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's brilliant and vicious. I'm a grandmother who was forced to eat on paper plates while her son charged designer handbags to her credit card. I'm allowed to be vicious. Give me a week to set it up. I'm on the planning committee. I can get you a speaking slot. Do it, Rebecca called with the details. You're confirmed as a speaker. May 20th, 11 a.m. 30-minute slot titled Financial Planning and Protection for Seniors, a Case Study. They think you're going to give a generic presentation about avoiding scams. And instead? Instead, you're going to show them exactly what elder abuse looks like, with names, dates, and dollar amounts. My heart was racing. 500 people will be watching, plus local news coverage. WTVD and WRAL are both sending camera crews. This will be on the evening news. What if I freeze? What if I can't do it? Myra, you've been running a business for decades. You've presented to clients, to the IRS, to loan committees. This is the same thing, just higher stakes. Slightly higher, yes. The question is, are you sure you want to do this? Once you expose them publicly, there's no taking it back. The relationship with Philip will be over. I thought about that. Really thought about it. The relationship is already over, I said quietly. He ended it when he chose Jolene over me, when he forged my signature, when he told neighbors I had Alzheimer's. This is just making it official. All right then, let's make it count. Over the next 4 months, I prepared. I wrote my speech, rewrote it, revised it 47 times, every word precise, every sentence backed by documentation. I practiced in Barbara's living room, practiced in Rebecca's conference room, practiced alone in my bedroom at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. Dr. Bennett prescribed propranolol for performance anxiety, 20 milligrams to take 1 hour before speaking, to keep my hands from shaking, my voice from wavering. Sarah Kim prepared visual aids, slides showing the forged signatures side by side with my real ones, bank statements with fraudulent charges highlighted in red, a timeline of the theft, before and after comparisons. Rebecca prepared the legal documents, criminal complaints ready to file with the district attorney, civil lawsuits for full restitution and damages, and something special, restraining orders printed and ready to serve the moment I finished speaking. We planned for every contingency. What if they left early? Rebecca had sheriff's deputies ready. What if they caused a scene? Security would handle it. What if I broke down crying? Barbara would be in the front row with tissues and support. Meanwhile, Philip and Jolene were executing their own timeline, completely unaware of mine. February 2nd, they filed the guardianship petition. Court date set for June 15th. March 3rd, they submitted the application for a third mortgage on my house, $100,000, with my forged signature. April 15th, I accidentally found a brochure for Shady Pines in Jolene's purse. She'd circled the phone number for intake appointments. They thought they were winning. They thought the confused old woman in the kitchen with the paper plate didn't understand what was happening to her. They had no idea I was 3 moves ahead. April 30th, 2023, Jolene came home from shopping, excited and animated. Mom, I found something perfect for you. There's a senior resource fair at the convention center on May 20th. All kinds of workshops about healthcare, financial planning, legal rights, everything you need to understand better. I looked up from my knitting. That sounds nice. And listen to this. There's a speaker with your same name, Myra Cox. She's giving a presentation about financial protection for seniors. Isn't that wild? Same name. What a coincidence, I said mildly. Philip studied the brochure. We should definitely go. It would be good for Mom to learn about these resources. See how other families handle these situations. Absolutely, Jolene agreed. May 20th. We'll make a day of it. Maybe lunch at Capitol Grill afterward? Sounds perfect, Philip said. After they left the room, I permitted myself the smallest of smiles. May 20th, 20 days away. For 11 months I'd been building this case, collecting evidence, documenting lies, proving my competence, tracing every stolen dollar. In 20 days, Philip and Jolene Cox would learn what happens when you underestimate a woman who spent 43 years making numbers tell the truth. In 20 days, I would stand in front of 500 people and show them exactly who I was. Not a confused old woman, not an incompetent burden, not a victim, an accountant, a mother, a widow who'd lost her husband but refused to lose herself. And I had 143,867 reasons to make sure everyone knew it. The numbers were ready, the evidence was ironclad. The stage was set. All that remained was the performance. I woke before dawn, my heart already racing. In 6 hours, I would destroy my son's life in front of 500 witnesses. The thought made me want to vomit. I took my propranolol at 8 a.m., my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the pill. Barbara picked me up at 8:30. Philip and Jolene would arrive separately. They thought I was just attending, not speaking. "You ready for this?" Barbara asked as we drove toward Raleigh. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Rebecca met us backstage at the Fayetteville Convention Center at 9:30. She handed me a bottle of water and studied my face. "How are you holding up?" "Ask me in 3 hours. Your slides are loaded. Sarah's in the 3rd row with backup evidence binders. I have the legal papers ready to serve the moment you finish. Sheriff's deputies are positioned at the exits. Everything's in place." She squeezed my shoulder. "Myra, you can still back out. We can prosecute them quietly. You don't have to do this publicly." I thought about Christmas dinner on a paper plate, about my forged signature on mortgage documents, about Jolene's Facebook posts claiming I didn't know what day it was. I have to do this. Then make it count. At 10:52 a.m., Philip and Jolene arrived. I watched from backstage as they entered the main hall. They chose seats in the 3rd row, center section. Perfect view of the podium. Jolene was scrolling through her phone, smiling at something, probably texting friends about her exhausting day of caregiving. Philip looked uncomfortable. He'd been looking uncomfortable for months, actually. Guilt finally catching up with him. Too little, too late. At 10:58, the moderator, Helen Zhang from the Cumberland County Department of Aging, took the stage. At 10:59, I walked to the wings, stood in the shadows, watched the crowd settle. At 11 o'clock exactly, Helen began. Our next speaker is Myra Cox, a retired accountant and bookkeeper with over 40 years of experience in financial management. She's here today to discuss financial planning and protection for seniors. Please welcome Mrs. Cox. Polite applause rippled through the room. I stepped onto the stage, walked to the podium, looked out at 500 faces, found Philip and Jolene in the 3rd row. Jolene gave me an encouraging smile and a thumbs up, like a proud daughter-in-law supporting her confused mother-in-law's brave attempt at public speaking. I smiled back. Then I began. "Good morning. My name is Myra Cox. I'm 67 years old. I'm a widow. For the past 33 months, my son Philip and my daughter-in-law Jolene have been systematically stealing my money, forging my signature, and planning to have me declared incompetent so they could take everything I've worked for my entire life." Complete silence crashed over the room like a wave. Jolene's smile froze on her face, then shattered. Philip sat up ramrod straight, eyes wide with horror. "Today, I'm not going to give you a generic presentation about avoiding scams. I'm going to tell you exactly what elder financial abuse looks like, using my own case as the primary example, with receipts." I advanced to the first slide. A photograph of my house. This is 847 Oakwood Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina. My late husband David and I purchased this home in 1989 for $68,000. We paid it off completely in 2004. On September 15, 2021, exactly 1 month after David died of a sudden heart attack, my son Philip forged my signature and took out a second mortgage for $124,780. Next slide. 2 signatures side by side, mine on the left, flowing and confident. The forgery on the right, similar but wrong. As you can see, these signatures don't match. The forged version has a different slant, different pressure, a fundamentally different letter formation on the M. I know this because I've signed my name on tax returns, business contracts, and legal documents for 43 years. I know my own signature. Gasps scattered through the audience. Camera operators in the back were adjusting their equipment, zooming in. Philip was shaking his head frantically. "Mom, please don't. Please stay seated, Philip. We're just getting started, and I'd hate for you to miss the evidence." Next slide. Bank statements with highlighted charges. Between September 2021 and April 2023, Philip and Jolene Cox charged $143,867 to my accounts, without my knowledge or consent. This includes $890 monthly for a BMW lease, $1,200 for a Michael Kors handbag, $2,300 for a Tiffany bracelet. thousands more in designer clothing, expensive restaurant meals, and failed business ventures. I looked directly at Jolene, who had gone pale as milk. Including $23,600 in online poker debts, the audience erupted in murmurs. Jolene's face flushed red. How did they justify this theft? Simple. They told everyone I was incompetent. They told neighbors I had Alzheimer's disease. They filmed carefully edited videos of me asking normal questions, then claimed I was confused and declining. Next slide. Screenshots from Jolene's Facebook posts. These are posts from my daughter-in-law's account. It's so hard watching her fade away. She doesn't even know what day it is anymore. Prayers needed for mom's memory issues. Next slide. My medical evaluations. This is my cognitive evaluation from Dr. Harold Patterson, neurologist at Duke University Hospital. Mini mental state examination score, 30 out of 30. Perfect. Montreal Cognitive Assessment, 28 out of 30. Well above normal. MRI showing completely healthy brain function. His medical conclusion, and I quote, "Patient is fully competent to manage her own financial, medical, and legal affairs." This is my psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Sharon Bennett. Her conclusion, no cognitive impairment, appropriate judgment and decision-making capacity, mentally competent to make all decisions regarding her care and estate. I paused, letting that sink in. The room was absolutely silent except for the quiet whir of cameras. I don't have Alzheimer's. I don't have dementia. I don't have any cognitive impairment whatsoever. What I have is a son and daughter-in-law who spent 3 years gaslighting me, stealing from me, and preparing to have me locked away in a memory care facility so they could take everything. Next slide. The forged guardianship petition. This is the petition they filed to have me declared legally incompetent. It includes a statement supposedly from my psychiatrist, Dr. Bennett, claiming I have severe cognitive decline and severely impaired judgment. I looked out at the audience, many of whom were leaning forward, riveted. Dr. Bennett is here today. Dr. Bennett, would you please stand? Dr. Sharon Bennett rose from her seat in the 5th row. I'm here, Myra. Did you write that statement? Absolutely not. I never wrote those words. That is a forged document using my name and medical license number without my knowledge or consent. Thank you, Dr. Bennett. She sat down. The room buzzed with shocked conversation. Next slide. Timeline of the theft. A detailed chart showing the progression of fraudulent charges over 3 years. Let me walk you through how systematic this was. For the next 8 minutes, I detailed every fraudulent transaction. The BMW, the Nordstrom charges, the mortgage, the planned third mortgage that would have put $224,000 in debt on my $310,000 house. I showed them Jolene's gambling history, Philip's failed business ventures, the credit card debt they'd accumulated, their complete financial desperation that made me a target. The audience wasn't just silent anymore, they were angry. I could hear people muttering. Someone said loudly, "That's criminal." Another voice, "How could they do that to their own mother?" Tony Rodriguez, a friend of David's from the VFW, stood up in the middle section. "I knew something was wrong. Philip told me you couldn't manage money anymore, that you were getting confused and making mistakes. I believed him. I'm so sorry, Myra." "It's not your fault, Tony. That's how financial abuse works. The abusers isolate you, control the narrative, and make everyone think you're the problem instead of the victim." Final slide. Sarah Kim's Forensic Accounting Summary. This is the complete financial analysis conducted by Sarah Kim, certified public accountant and certified fraud examiner. She traced every single dollar. The total documented theft, $143,867. Every transaction verified. Every forged signature analyzed. Every lie exposed. I gripped the podium, my hands finally steady now that the hardest part was done. I'm not telling you this story to get sympathy. I'm telling you this story so you know what to look for. So you understand that being older doesn't mean being helpless. So you know that documentation is power, that medical evidence matters, and that you are never too old to fight back. Rebecca stood up from the back of the room. I'm Rebecca Walsh, Mrs. Cox's attorney. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. Criminal charges were filed this morning with the Cumberland County District Attorney's Office. The charges include elder financial abuse, forgery, fraud, and attempted false imprisonment. She walked down the center aisle, legal papers in hand, her heels clicking on the floor in the sudden silence. She stopped in front of Philip and Jolene's row. "Philip Cox and Jolene Patterson Cox, you're being served." She handed them the papers. Philip took them with shaking hands. Jolene sat frozen, her face cycling through shock, rage, and calculation. "These are civil lawsuits for full restitution of $143,867 plus damages. These are restraining orders prohibiting you from entering Mrs. Cox's property, accessing her financial accounts, or contacting her directly. And these are notices that the district attorney will be contacting you within 48 hours regarding criminal prosecution." The room erupted. People standing up, cameras flashing, news reporters rushing forward, voices calling out questions. Philip was crying openly now, his face in his hands. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please." Jolene grabbed his arm, her voice sharp and urgent. "Don't say anything, Philip. Don't apologize. We need a lawyer, now." "You'll need an excellent lawyer," Rebecca said calmly. "Mrs. Cox has 127 audio recordings of your conversations. She has complete medical documentation proving her competency. She has a forensic accounting report that will hold up in any courtroom in America. You have 72 hours to vacate her property at 847 Oakwood Drive." Jolene finally found her voice, standing up, her face twisted with rage. "This is slander. This is defamation. She's mentally ill and this whole presentation is a delusion." I pulled the small recorder from my pocket. Pressed play. Jolene's voice filled the speakers, crystal clear. "If we get her declared incompetent, we get everything. She's not going to last much longer anyway. She's what? 64? Depressed? On medication? Clearly declining. The way I see it, we're just expediting the inevitable." Then Philip's voice. "What's the timeline?" The recording continued for another 30 seconds, their conspiracy laid bare, their calculation and cruelty captured in perfect digital clarity. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Jolene's face had gone from red to white to a sickly gray. "You recorded us? That's illegal. You can't—" "North Carolina is a one-party consent state," Rebecca said smoothly. "If Mrs. Cox is part of a conversation, she can legally record it. Completely admissible in court." Security was moving in now, creating a buffer around Philip and Jolene as the crowd pressed closer. People were shouting, taking pictures, recording video on their phones. Helen Zhang took the microphone, trying to restore order. "Everyone, please, let's give the Cox family space." But there was no space. No privacy. That was the entire point. This was exactly what I'd wanted. Everyone seeing, everyone knowing, everyone understanding that the confused old woman they'd pitied was actually a sharp-minded accountant who'd outmaneuvered two thieves. As security escorted Philip and Jolene toward a side exit, Philip turned back. Our eyes met across the chaos. "I loved you, Mom," I said, just loud enough for him to hear over the noise. "That's why this hurts so much." His face crumpled. Then security moved him through the door, and he was gone. I stood at the podium, suddenly exhausted. My legs felt weak. The adrenaline that had carried me through the presentation was draining away, leaving me hollow. Barbara appeared at my side, her arm around me. "Come on, honey, let's get you out of here." "Did I do the right thing?" I whispered. "You did the necessary thing. There's a difference." Rebecca joined us, shielding me from the crowd and cameras. "Excellent work, Myra. That was perfect. I destroyed my son. He destroyed himself. You just made sure people knew about it." We left through a back entrance, avoiding the media circus in the main hall. I could hear reporters calling questions, camera operators scrambling for position. In Barbara's car, I finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, not from relief, from the weight of it all. The 3 years of abuse, the 11 months of planning, the finality of what I'd just done. There was no going back from this. Philip and I would never have a normal relationship again. Might never have any relationship again. But I'd protected myself. I'd exposed the truth. I'd fought back. And sometimes that has to be enough. The story went viral within hours. By 2 p.m., it was the lead story on WRAL News. Retired accountant exposes son's elder abuse at public forum. By 6 p.m., it had been picked up by the Associated Press. By 8 p.m., the video of my speech had over 800,000 views on YouTube. By midnight, it topped 1.3 million. Retired accountant outsmarts fraudster son with forensic evidence. Charlotte Observer. 67-year-old woman documents 3 years of elder abuse, exposes son publicly. Washington Post. How one widow used her accounting skills to catch family fraud. NBC News. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Interview requests from Good Morning America, Today Show, 60 Minutes. Barbara had to turn it off. I spent the night at Barbara's house, unable to face returning to Philip and Jolene's home. Not that it mattered. By 9 a.m. the next morning, they were gone. Neighbors reported seeing a U-Haul truck at 6:30 a.m. By the time Rebecca and I arrived with the sheriff's deputy at 10 a.m., the house was empty of their possessions. They'd taken everything and fled. The BMW was gone too, repossessed, I learned later. They'd been 3 months behind on payments. My house at 847 Oakwood Drive was still standing, still mine. The fraudulent second mortgage was voided by the court within 48 hours. The keys were returned to me by the deputy. I stood in my living room, my actual living room, not the bedroom at Philip's house, and looked around at all the furniture David and I had chosen together. The bookshelf full of his history books, the armchair where he'd graded papers, the kitchen table where we'd done our taxes every April. I was home, finally home, but it felt emptier than ever before. May 25, 2023. The legal consequences rolled in like a wave. The restraining order was served and entered into the court record. Philip and Jolene were prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. The bank reversed the fraudulent second mortgage. My home equity was restored. First Citizens Bank also launched an internal investigation into how the mortgage had been approved with such obvious signature discrepancies. Someone in their loan department was going to lose their job. Wells Fargo flagged the attempted third mortgage application as fraud and reported it to authorities. Credit card companies reversed the charges once presented with the evidence. $143,000 in fraudulent transactions, all being returned or credited. Philip lost his job on May 23rd. The medical equipment company had a zero-tolerance policy for employees with pending felony charges. 20 years of employment, gone in a termination letter that took 30 seconds to deliver. Jolene had never had a job to lose. June 2nd, 2023. The district attorney, Marcus Thompson, called with an update. Mrs. Cox, I wanted to inform you that we've officially charged both Philip and Jolene Cox with multiple felonies: elder abuse, financial exploitation, forgery, fraud, and attempted false imprisonment. The evidence you provided is the strongest I've seen in my career. What happens now? They've hired attorneys, public defenders. Apparently they can't afford private counsel anymore. We're in plea negotiation. They want to avoid trial. Will they go to prison? Almost certainly. The question is for how long? Are you willing to provide a victim impact statement? I thought about that. Standing in front of a judge, describing how it felt to eat on paper plates while they used my china. How it felt to watch my son choose his wife over his mother. Yes, I'll provide a statement. Good. I'll be in touch about the sentencing hearing. June 15th, 2023. The guardianship petition was dismissed with prejudice. Judge Patricia Williams took one look at my medical evaluations and threw the case out. Mrs. Cox is clearly competent to manage her own affairs, she said from the bench. This petition appears to have been filed in bad faith for the purpose of financial exploitation. Dismissed. She added a note to Philip and Jolene's record that would make it nearly impossible for them to ever file for guardianship of anyone again. One small victory in a war that felt like it had no winners. Which brings us back to May 14th, 2024, exactly 1 year after my speech at the Senior Resource Fair. The story you heard at the beginning wasn't the beginning at all. It was the final move in a game that had one more play left. Let me tell you what really happened. April 30th, 2024, Philip and Jolene were released on supervised probation pending their sentencing hearing, scheduled for June 2024. Part of their probation terms. Absolutely no contact with me. The restraining order was still in full effect. On May 10th, my phone rang from a blocked number. I almost didn't answer. Mom, please don't hang up. Philip's voice, quiet and desperate. I should have ended the call immediately. Should have reported the violation to his probation officer, but I didn't. What do you want, Philip? To explain. To apologize properly. Mom, I know I can't fix what we did, but please, can we talk? Face to face? Just once? The restraining order prohibits any contact. I know, but we could meet somewhere public, neutral. I just need you to understand there's more to the story. Things about Jolene you don't know, about why she targeted you specifically. That caught my attention. What do you mean, targeted? Please, meet me, just this once. Let me tell you everything. I called Rebecca immediately after hanging up. It's a trap, she said without hesitation. They're planning something. What if Philip really does want to come clean? Then he can do it in his deposition with his lawyer present. Myra, do not meet with them. But something in Philip's voice had sounded genuine, broken, and I needed to know what he meant about Jolene targeting me. More importantly, I had a suspicion about what they were really planning. I did some research over the next few days, made some calls, discovered that Jolene had been making inquiries about emergency guardianship procedures, had been asking questions about expedited commitment processes at Shady Pines. They were going to make one more attempt. So I set a trap of my own. I called Philip back from a burner phone. Okay, we can meet, but on my terms. Anything, Mom, whatever you need. May 14th. Pick me up at my house at 9 a.m. You can take me somewhere to talk. But Philip, I'm going to record everything. And if you're planning what I think you're planning, you'll regret it. We just want to talk, I promise. On May 14th, Philip and Jolene pulled up in a rented BMW at exactly 9 a.m. I was waiting with my small suitcase, the one that had been David's. Inside, a change of clothes, my medications, and my phone with Rebecca on speed dial. I got in the back seat. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere quiet, Jolene said. Somewhere peaceful, where we can all relax and have an honest conversation. They drove toward Raleigh, away from Fayetteville, away from anyone who knew me. I knew where we were going before we got there. Raleigh-Durham International Airport. Why are we at the airport? I asked, playing my part. We thought it would be good for you to take a trip, Mom, Philip said, his voice tight with stress. Clear your head. We've arranged everything. A trip where? Jolene turned in her seat, gave me that bright, false smile. There's a wonderful facility we found. Very peaceful. They specialize in memory care. Shady Pines. Her smile faltered. You remember it? I remember everything, Jolene. I always have. They pulled up to departures. Jolene got out, opened my door. Come on, Mom. We'll walk you inside. I don't think so. Philip got out too. Mom, please don't make this difficult. We're trying to help you. Help me into a locked facility where you can claim I voluntarily admitted myself. Where you can file for emergency guardianship because I'm clearly incompetent if I checked myself into memory care. They both froze. You thought I wouldn't figure it out? You thought I'd just go along with this? Jolene's mask slipped. Her voice went cold. Get out of the car, Myra. No. Get out of the car or we'll drag you out. Try it. There are security cameras everywhere. And Rebecca Walsh has been on the phone this entire drive, recording every word. I pulled out my phone, held it up so they could see the active call. Rebecca's name on the screen. Philip's face went white. Mom, no. Hello, Rebecca. Did you get all that? Her voice came through the speaker, clear and calm. Every word. The police will be there in approximately 3 minutes. Jolene lunged for the phone. I pulled it back. Don't bother. It's already recorded. Cloud backup. You can't delete it. You set us up, Jolene hissed. I protected myself, just like I've been doing for 3 years. That's when the police cars pulled up, lights flashing. 2 officers got out, approached the BMW. Philip Cox and Jolene Cox? One officer asked. Philip nodded mutely. You're under arrest for attempted kidnapping, violation of a restraining order, and attempted false imprisonment. You have the right to remain silent. I got out of the car slowly, watching as they handcuffed my son. Mom, please, Philip begged as the officer guided him toward the police car. We just wanted to talk. We weren't going to. You drove me to an airport and tried to force me into a memory care facility I don't need. That's not talking, Philip. That's attempted kidnapping. Jolene was screaming now, fighting against the handcuffs. You'll die alone. Your precious son hates you. This is all your fault. The officers put her in a separate police car. Her voice was muffled, but I could still hear her raging. Philip just looked at me through the window of his police car, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, he mouthed. I looked away. Rebecca pulled up in her car moments later, parked, and rushed over. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. They fell for it. Their probation is revoked. They're going to prison, Myra. This time for real." I watched the police cars pull away, taking my son to jail. "Good," I said quietly. During the investigation following the airport incident, the DA's office made a discovery. Jolene Patterson had done this before, 8 years ago in Virginia, to her own grandmother, Helen Sullivan, originally from Richmond. She'd manipulated her grandmother into signing over power of attorney, systematically drained $45,000 from the elderly woman's accounts, bought herself a car, designer clothes, jewelry, all while her grandmother ate frozen dinners and couldn't afford her medications. Helen Sullivan died 6 months into the investigation before charges could be filed. Jolene inherited everything, spent it all within 11 months. Then she moved to North Carolina. Clean slate. New identity, practically. She'd even changed her hair color. She met Philip at a medical conference in 2018. He was lonely, recently out of a bad relationship, vulnerable. She targeted him because he mentioned his mother was a widow. She married him to get access to me. "She's done this before?" I asked Marcus Thompson, the DA. "We're working with Virginia authorities now. Turns out there might be other victims, too. Women in their 60s and 70s who lost money to someone matching Jolene's description." "She's a professional predator." "Essentially, yes. The state psychologist evaluated her. Antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic traits, no genuine empathy. She views people, especially older women, as resources to exploit." I sat with that information for a long time. "And Philip?" "Was manipulated. But he still made choices. He still participated. He still chose her over you, repeatedly." Both things could be true. Philip was a victim of Jolene's manipulation, and he was also responsible for his own actions. The complexity of that hurt worse than simple betrayal would have. The courthouse was packed for the sentencing hearing. Media, interested citizens, other elder abuse victims who'd been following the case. I sat in the front row with Barbara on one side and Rebecca on the other. Philip and Jolene were led in separately. Orange jumpsuits, shackles. Philip looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 months. Jolene looked defiant, her jaw set. Judge Williams asked if I wanted to give a victim impact statement. I stood up, walked to the podium, looked at my son. "Your Honor, for 42 years I was married to David Cox. We built a life together based on trust, hard work, and mutual respect. When he died, I was devastated. I was vulnerable. I was grieving. Philip was my only child. I loved him more than anything. I trusted him completely. He used that trust to steal from me, to humiliate me, to plan to lock me away in a facility I didn't need. He told everyone I was incompetent. He forged my signature on legal documents. He took $143,000 that I'd worked 43 years to earn. I paused, my voice cracking slightly. But the money isn't the worst part. The worst part is that he chose his wife over his mother. He chose greed over decency. He chose lies over truth, again and again and again. I gave him opportunities to come clean, to choose differently. He never did, not until he was caught. I looked directly at Philip. He was crying. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him. I don't know if our relationship can ever be repaired. But I know this. He needs to face consequences. Real consequences. Not for revenge, but for justice. For accountability. And so that he never does this to anyone else. I sat down. Judge Williams looked at Philip and Jolene. Philip Cox, you exploited your own mother during her most vulnerable time. You betrayed the trust that should exist between parent and child. You participated in systematic financial abuse. The fact that you were influenced by your wife does not excuse your actions. You made choices. You will face the consequences of those choices. I sentence you to 3 years in the North Carolina Department of Corrections, with possibility of parole after 18 months. Additionally, full restitution of $143,867 plus interest and 10 years of probation upon release. Philip's shoulders shook with sobs. Jolene Cox, you are a predator. You have a pattern of targeting vulnerable older women for financial exploitation. You manipulated your husband into participating in this scheme. You showed no remorse, no empathy, No recognition of the harm you caused. You attempted to kidnap Mrs. Cox even after being caught. I sentence you to 7 years in the North Carolina Department of Corrections. No possibility of parole for at least 4 years. Full restitution. 15 years of probation upon release. And I'm recommending that you be flagged in every state database as a financial exploitation risk. Jolene's face went purple with rage. She started to speak, but her lawyer grabbed her arm, whispering urgently. It was done. Philip was led away, turning to look at me one more time. I didn't look away, didn't flinch, just watched my son be taken to prison for crimes he committed against me. I'm sitting on my front porch at 847 Oakwood Drive. My house, free and clear, fully mine again. It's early morning, just after dawn. My coffee is hot, the birds are singing, and the neighborhood is slowly waking up. I'm 68 years old now. The garden is in full bloom. Roses, daisies, the hydrangeas David planted 20 years ago. I've taken over the gardening completely. It's meditative, therapeutic. Putting my hands in the dirt, making things grow. I run the Myra Cox Elder Advocacy Fund now. We've helped 89 seniors recover stolen assets in the past year. We provide free legal consultations, forensic accounting services, and support groups. The work is hard. Every case is heartbreaking in its own way. Adult children stealing from parents, caregivers exploiting the vulnerable, financial predators targeting the elderly. But we win more than we lose, and every victory matters. North Carolina passed comprehensive elder abuse reform in 2024. Stronger penalties, better protections, mandatory reporting requirements. The media called them Myra's Laws, though I tried to discourage that. This wasn't about me. It was about protecting people. I testified before the state legislature, shared my story again, though it never gets easier. But if telling my story helps protect even one person from what I went through, it's worth the pain. I'm dating someone, George Patterson. No relation to Jolene, thank God. He's a retired banker, 71, a widower. We met at a financial literacy workshop I was teaching. He asked me to coffee afterward. We take things slowly. Trust is hard when you've been betrayed by your own child. But George is patient, kind. He makes me laugh. We go to museums, take walks, cook dinner together. It's not the love I had with David. Nothing will ever be that again. But it's something gentle and good. And at 68, I'm learning that's enough. Barbara comes over every Sunday. We work in the garden, drink iced tea on the porch, talk about everything and nothing. She's the sister I lost when Dorothy died. The friend who stood by me when everyone else believed the lies. I owe her more than I can ever repay. Tomorrow, I'm doing something I've been thinking about for months. I'm driving to Central Prison in Raleigh. Philip asked if I'd visit. He's written me letters, one every 2 weeks since he was sentenced. I've read every one. Haven't responded to most of them. They're different from the letters at the beginning. Less focused on asking for forgiveness. More focused on understanding what he did. On taking actual responsibility. His therapist in prison says he's making progress. Working through his issues with boundaries, with saying no to manipulative people, with understanding his own worth. I don't know if I believe in redemption. I don't know if people can really change. But I know that holding on to hate is exhausting. And I'm tired of being exhausted. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean trusting again. It doesn't mean having a relationship. It means letting go of the anger so I can live my own life. Dr. Bennett helped me understand that. In our sessions, we've worked through the betrayal, the grief, the complicated love I still have for my son despite everything. I forgave Philip months ago. For me, not for him. But I haven't seen him since the sentencing. Tomorrow, I'll drive to the prison. I'll sit across from him in the visiting room. I'll listen to what he has to say. And then, I don't know. Maybe we'll build something new. Maybe we won't. Either way, I get to decide. That's what matters. At 68 years old, I've learned that victory and loss aren't opposites. They coexist in the same space, tangled together like roots in a garden. I won my house back, my dignity, my financial security, my independence. But I lost my son. Maybe not forever, maybe not irreparably, but I lost the relationship we had. And there's grief in that. Some days it feels worth it. Some days it doesn't. Most days I'm just grateful. Grateful to wake up in my own house, to make my own decisions, to spend my money on things I choose, to help other people who are going through what I survived. Grateful to be Myra Cox, not someone's confused mother, not someone's incompetent burden, but myself, fully myself. I look at David's photo, still on the mantel in its silver frame. I did it, love, I whisper. I made them face the numbers. I think he'd be proud. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. I take a sip of my coffee, watch the sun climb higher, feel the gentle May breeze. At 68 years old, I know who I am. I'm an accountant, a mother, a widow, a survivor, an advocate. I'm a woman who spent 43 years making numbers tell the truth. And in the end, the truth always, always wins.